Good morning, Willowbrook. Today we're in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through 9. This passage of scripture is part of a collection of scriptures known as the Shema, which is a prayer that the Jews pray in the morning and in the evening of every day. And this passage opens with, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one." And this is a simple statement, but it's got profound meaning. The word hear in the original Hebrew means to listen, understand, and respond. This is not a passive thing. This is a very engaged and active hearing, to listen, to understand, and to respond. And he goes on to say, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. And the word one is indicated as alone. So not only is he one God, but he is the only God. So the Jews saw him as a collective. The word used here is Elohim, which is a plural word in the Hebrew, but has a singular meaning. So God is many parts, but one being. And he is the only one there is. He is the only God. And for the original audience, this is coming out of a culture that had many gods. And they're being reminded, pay attention here. There's only one God, and he is our God. And we need to remember that in our time where we are, because we have a lot of distractions, a lot of things that we can prioritize over God if we're not careful. So that's how that would apply to us. And he says, in order to do this, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength. Now, interestingly, there's a unique thing to the Hebrew language called gematria. And it is where they ascribe a numerical value to each of the symbols in their language. And the word alone has the exact same numerical value as the word love in this passage. And that basically has a hidden message, according to one of the, I just thought this was cool, one of the things I read. The hidden message in this particular gematria is that the greatest love a person can feel is the love of the one and only God, whose very essence is love. So he says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength. Now there's emphasis upon emphasis here, because the word heart is used metaphorically, but if you think of it like your heart is inside of you and it's beating and it's pumping blood through all of your body. It is this life that goes into all of you. And then soul, it goes on to include your emotions, your thoughts, your physical actions. And strength, it indicates what this particular word means. It is exceedingly, to the fullest extent. So there is a completeness to God, and there is a completeness to the love that he has given us, his very essence. And there is a completeness to our response. As we listen, understand, we respond with this complete love back to him. And he goes on to say, he says, you've got to love the Lord with your God with all your heart, soul, and strength. And he goes, please remember the teachings I'm giving you this day. Please remember this. He says, impress it on your children. Talk about it when you're home and when you're away, when you lie down and when you get up. This means all of the time. So it's all of who we are, all of the time, is to be loving the Lord, our God, the only God. Now, back in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18, is where we hear, love your neighbor as yourself. And this is going through a series of things that people need to that they need to understand how to interact with one another. And so it says, love your neighbor as yourself. And in Matthew 22, Christ puts these together, says the two greatest commandments. The greatest commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Extra emphasis there, and again, totality. And love your neighbor as yourself. Now understand, you don't necessarily come last here. The premise here is you've got to first receive from God, and then you respond to God. And in so doing, you are able to love your neighbor well. You are able to love your neighbor the way God has loved you. In Acts chapter 17, Paul says, it is in him we live and move and have our being. And to me, I love the way that comes together. I love the picture of we first receive the completeness of who he is. We respond with the totality of who we are. And then we're able to love others well. And that this is a complete picture of all of who we are, all of the time, every day, all of the time. And we are equipped to do this. Willowbrook, I pray that you're enjoying our daily devos. I pray that you are having a beautiful and blessed day, that you are safe, and that the Lord is speaking to each of your hearts in a most unique and powerful way.